The Vermont College logo stares back at me from my opened acceptance letter, now defaced with angry red pen marks circling the tuition cost. My hands tremble as I lift the paper from Mother's desk, the familiar weight of dread settling in my stomach. Through the window, I hear laughter floating up from the backyard where Dad is grilling steaks to celebrate Ellie's academic awards ceremony tonight. Perfect Ellie with her perfect grades and her perfect future all mapped out according to Mother's perfect plan. I trace my finger over the college letterhead, remembering how my heart soared when I first held this envelope. 3 weeks of hiding it, waiting for the right moment to share my news. What a fool I'd been. The floorboard creaks behind me. Mother stands in the doorway, arms crossed over her chest, face carved from stone. "What are you doing in my office, Nina?" I hold up the letter, forcing my voice to remain steady. "You open my mail. I pay the bills in this house. I have a right to know when my daughter is making foolish decisions." She steps closer, her perfume roses and sandalwood filling the space between us. "Vermont? For a writing program? Do you have any idea what this would cost?" "I got a scholarship that covers half the tuition," I say, lifting my chin. Mother's laugh slices through the air. "Half of too much is still too much. Writing isn't a real career. You're throwing your life away to play make-believe." For the first time in months, I met her eyes directly. My shoulders straighten as something shifts inside me, a small rebellion taking root. It's not make-believe to me. Her face hardens. "Bakersfield Community College has perfectly fine English classes. You can live at home, save money." "I want to go to Vermont." Mother slams her hand on the desk, making me drop the letter. "Listen to me very carefully, Nina. If you leave, don't ever come back to this house. Do you understand me? If you choose this fantasy over your family, you're on your own." The threat hangs in the air between us. I think about my 17th birthday 3 months ago, when Mother presented Ellie with a brand new laptop during my birthday dinner. "She needs it for her advanced classes," Mother had explained while I unwrapped discount bookstore gift cards. I remember Dad's uncomfortable smile as he tried to make it up to me later with ice cream, how Mother's disapproving glare silenced his attempt to balance the scales. I bend down slowly to pick up my letter. "I understand perfectly." "Good." Mother softens her tone, mistaking my calm for surrender. "Now get ready for your sister's ceremony. We're leaving in 20 minutes. The door opens again, and Dad appears, still wearing his grilling apron. His eyes dart between us, taking in the letter in my hand, Mother's rigid posture. "Everything okay in here?" he asks, his voice careful, non-committal. "Fine, Marcus." Mother answers before I can speak. "Nina and I were just discussing her college options." Dad's gaze falls to the acceptance letter, recognition flickering across his face. "Vermont? That's the writing program you mentioned?" "It's not happening," Mother cuts in. "We've decided the Bakersfield community is more practical." "We haven't decided anything," I say quietly. Dad looks away, tugging at his apron strings. "Let's not ruin Ellie's big night. We'll talk about this later, okay? Let's just keep the peace for now." I watch him retreat, choosing the path of least resistance as he always does. The familiar ache of disappointment burns in my chest. If I leave for Vermont, I risk losing what little connection we have. If I stay, I fold the letter carefully along its creases and tuck it into my pocket as I follow Dad downstairs. Later that night, after returning from Ellie's ceremony where Mother beamed with pride through every award announcement, I paused outside their bedroom door, hearing Mother's voice drift through the crack. "I wish I only had one daughter, someone like you," she tells Ellie. "Someone who appreciates everything we do for her." I press my palm against the cool wall to steady myself. The acceptance letter seems to burn in my desk drawer across the hall. For the first time, I wonder if losing this family might not be losing much at all. 3 days after the incident with my family, Wednesday at school, people from my class found my dory in the locker. As I approach my locker after the classes, the sound hits me first, laughter rolling from the senior lounge. I recognize Miles's baritone cutting through the others, but it's what he's saying that freezes me in the hallway. Listen to this part. Miles says, his finger trailing across a page of my leather journal. My private journal, the one I'd foolishly left in his car yesterday. "Sometimes I think about running away so far that my mother's voice can't follow me anymore. Vermont has mountains that could shield me from her disappointment." More laughter erupts. Sarah Wong clutches her sides while Jason Bennett slaps his knee theatrically. Miles flips to another page, clearing his throat for his next performance. "Wait, this is the best part. I wonder if Dad ever loved Mom. or if he just surrendered to her like everyone else. I'm afraid I'll end up like him, a ghost haunting my own life. My heart pounds against my ribs. The journal in Miles's hands contains everything I've never said aloud about my family, about my fears, about Vermont. Words I trusted him with when I showed him a single page last week, thinking he might understand. I step forward, my sneakers squeaking against the linoleum. 4 heads turn in unison. Nina. Miles's smile falters, then reappears with forced brightness. We were just... Give it back. My voice comes out steadier than I expected. The lunch bell rings. Students flood the hallways, but time seems suspended in our bubble of betrayal. Come on, we were just having fun. Miles says, closing the journal but not offering it to me. Your stories are so dramatic. That stuff about your mom? Classic teen angst. Give it. Back. I reach for the journal, but Sarah steps between us. You're being too sensitive, she says, her voice dripping with false concern. Just like your mom always says. My stomach drops. What? Miles shrugs, avoiding my eyes. Your mom mentioned at the academic awards dinner how you always take everything so personally. We were just laughing because, well, your writing proves her point. During the lunch break, the cafeteria buzzes with activity as I stand alone, clutching my lunch tray 20 minutes later. Miles sits with our usual group, their heads bent together in conversation that stops when I approach. Can I sit here? I ask, hating how small my voice sounds. Jason scoots closer to Sarah, eliminating the empty space. We're saving this seat for Ellie, he says. She's giving us the scoop on her science award. Perfect, Ellie. Even here, she takes up space meant for me. I turn away before they see the tears forming and find an empty table near the windows. Through the glass, I can see the library where I've spent most lunch periods for the past week. The calendar on my phone shows 43 days until graduation. 43 days of this kind of isolation. Later, prior to going home, as I drop my submission for the school literary magazine into the wooden box outside the journalism room, I catch a glimpse of Miles talking to Brendan Wells, the newly appointed editor and Miles's lacrosse teammate. They both look my way, then laugh. 2 days later, when the submission list is posted, my name is nowhere to be found. When I ask Brendan about it, he shrugs. Must have gotten lost in the shuffle. Better luck next year. Oh wait, you'll be gone, right? Vermont or whatever? The word Vermont in his mouth sounds like a joke. Starting from next week, the library becomes my sanctuary. I sit at the back table, crossing off calendar days with precise red lines, watching the paths to freedom narrow. I wonder if Vermont is just another fantasy, like Miles being someone I could trust, or having friends who valued what I wrote. One Tuesday afternoon, I heard a familiar voice. May I join you? Miss Reynolds stands beside my table, a folder tucked under one arm. The English teacher's silver-streaked hair is pulled back in its usual practical bun. Of course, I say, closing my notebook where I've been trying to rewrite the story lost to Brendan's shuffle. She slides a familiar paper across the table. My story, the one about a girl who builds paper boats to carry her secrets downstream, away from a house where no one listens. I found this in the recycling bin by the journalism room. Miss Reynolds says, her voice low. I recognized your writing style immediately. My fingers trace the edges of the paper, shame and gratitude fighting for dominance. Nina, Miss. Reynolds leans forward. This voice deserves to be heard. Apply to the Vermont program, I'll write your recommendation. I already did, I whisper. I got accepted. Her eyes widen, then crinkle with a smile. That's wonderful news. My mother doesn't think so. Miss Reynolds places her hand briefly over mine. Apply for additional scholarships, I'll help you. This talent shouldn't be silenced. She writes something on the top of my story before sliding it back to me. This voice deserves to be heard. Sometimes the quietest words echo the longest. The library clock ticks toward the final period as Miss Reynolds walks away. I trace her words with my fingertip, feeling something small and warm kindle in my chest. Later that day, as I walk home clutching Miss Reynolds' note, I wonder if one person's belief in me is enough to counter so many voices telling me to stay small. Should I risk everything on this fragile hope of becoming a writer, or try to repair the relationships I already had? Sometimes the hardest choice isn't between right and wrong, but between the comfort of what you know and the terror of what you might become. 3 days later, on Friday, my mom arranged a meeting with a representative college advisor regarding my future studies without my knowledge. A woman across the dinner table leans forward, her gold necklace catching the light as she taps her manicured fingernail against a brochure. Marketing is perfect for creative types like you, Nina. You can write promotional materials while earning a steady paycheck. I stab my fork into the untouched lasagna Mother ordered for this ambush dinner. The community college advisor, Mrs. Winters, according to her laminated name tag, hasn't stopped talking since we sat down at Corelli's Italian restaurant 30 minutes ago. I've already reserved your spot in our business communications program, Mother announces, her voice honey, sweet for our guest but eyes flint, hard when they meet mine. I submitted your application yesterday and paid the deposit. The fork bends in my grip. Without asking me? Mrs. Winters clears her throat. Your mother mentioned you've been uncertain about your future plans. Mother dabs her lips with her napkin. Nina just needs direction. Writing stories won't pay the bills. I push back from the table, chair legs scraping against the floor. Excuse me, I need some air. 20 minutes later, she appears as well. Outside, the April evening wraps around me, unseasonably cool. I count my breaths until the restaurant door swings open behind me. Running away won't solve anything, Mother says, purse clutched against her chest like I might steal it. This tantrum proves you're not ready for independence. I face her, the streetlight catching the silver in her hair. This dinner proves you don't respect me enough to include me in decisions about my own life. Respect is earned, she snaps, then softens her voice when an elderly couple walks past. I'm trying to save you from yourself, Nina. Driving home 30 minutes later, silence fills the car like concrete, hardening with each passing mile. The next morning, I wake early to finish my Vermont application essay. I'd saved the document on the family computer, hidden in a folder labeled English Homework, but when I open the file, I find only a blank page. Hours of work vanished. The browser history shows someone accessed my documents at 11:47 p.m. while I was asleep. I press my knuckles against my mouth to trap the scream building in my chest. It isn't the first time. Last week, printouts of scholarship information disappeared from my desk drawer. The week before, college brochures I'd requested went missing from the mail. That afternoon, I dragged the stepladder from the garage to the backyard shed. The small building smells of lawnmower oil and forgotten gardening projects. Balanced on the ladder's top step, I reach into the dusty rafters and pull down a metal cookie tin last Christmas's gift from Aunt Sarah. Inside, I nestle my new notebook between Father's old flashlight and a package of batteries. For the next week, I write in the shed each night after dinner, claiming homework as my excuse. The flashlight beam creates a small circle of possibility on the page while mosquitoes whine outside the cracked window. At school, Miss Reynolds lets me use the library computer during lunch to create a new email account. Your situation isn't unique, she says, keeping watch at the door. But your talent island, don't let anyone convince you otherwise. I send updated transcripts to Vermont, explaining my circumstances in careful, measured words that don't sound like begging. A week later, Friday afternoon, I find a small package on my bed, a flash drive wrapped in plain blue paper. The note in Ellie's handwriting reads, I'm not taking sides, but I believe you need to go. Use this for your writing. I clutch the flash drive against my chest, this unexpected alliance warming me from within. Sunday evening, chopping onions for dinner while Mother whisks salad dressing and Father grills chicken outside, I gather my courage. The Vermont program emailed me. I say, knife steady against the cutting board. They're still holding my spot. Mother's whisking stops. We've been through this. Your father and I aren't paying for a vanity degree. I don't expect you to. The kitchen falls quiet except for the rhythmic chopping of my knife. Writing won't pay bills, Mother says, setting down her bowl with a sharp clink. Is that what you want to struggle your whole life for a hobby? I look up, meeting her gaze directly. The real struggle would be spending my life wondering what might have happened if I'd believed in myself enough to try. Something flickers across her face, surprise perhaps, at the woman standing before her instead of the daughter she thought she could control. Who's been filling your head with these ideas? She demands, but her voice lacks its usual command. No one, I answer, and the truth of it settles into my bones. This isn't about fighting you. It's about fighting for myself. I realize then what I couldn't see before. Her opposition isn't a wall I must break through, but a current I need to swim against to build strength for the journey ahead. The following Tuesday, Miss Lushens. Reynolds calls me into her classroom after the final bell. I submitted your name for 3 additional scholarships, she says, spreading application forms across her desk. This one covers books. This one is for first-generation college students, which you qualify for since neither of your parents attended university, and this one could provide a stipend for living expenses. I stare at the papers, possibilities multiplying before my eyes. Thank you. I whisper, my voice steadier than it's been in months. You're doing the work, she says. I'm just opening doors. At home that night, Father knocks on my bedroom door. He glances nervously down the hallway before handing me an envelope. Financial aid forms, he explains quietly. They need my signature since you're still 17. The papers inside bear his careful handwriting and signature. I may not always speak up, Nina, but I see you. His words echo in my mind 2 weeks later as I sit in the library, completing an online application for a campus job. The Vermont College Library needs student workers, and my experience shelving books at Bakersfield Public Library makes me qualified. The position would provide enough income to supplement my scholarships. That evening, Miss Reynolds connects me with a former student now running a writing group in Burlington, just 20 minutes from campus. Sarah says you can join their weekly meetings, she tells me. Having a support system waiting for you will make all the difference. For the first time, Vermont feels less like an escape fantasy and more like a possible future taking shape one piece at a time. The final acceptance packet arrives on a Thursday next week. I stand at the mailbox, official envelope in hand, when Mother's car pulls into the driveway. She steps out, phone pressed to her ear. Yes, we'll be there, she says, not seeing me yet. Ellie's academic awards dinner is at 7. We wouldn't miss it. She spots me then, eyes narrowing at the envelope in my hands, the college logo visible in the late afternoon Sunday. Our gazes lock, a silent standoff beneath the gathering clouds. The 3 cardboard boxes sit in the corner of my bedroom, labeled in black marker: clothes, books, mementos. My entire life distilled into 3 containers small enough to ship ahead to Vermont. I've been packing methodically for weeks, 1 item each night after everyone goes to bed, calculating what stays and what goes. Tonight I add my worn copy of The Bell Jar, running my fingers along its dog-eared pages before placing it carefully in the book's box. 3 weeks until graduation. Mother pauses in my doorway, her eyes narrowing at the organized boxes. I expected more drama, she says, leaning against the doorframe. Tears. Begging for forgiveness. Not this. Calculated dismantling of your room. I place another book in the box without looking up. Would drama change your mind? This isn't a game, Nina. I agree. I finally meet her gaze. That's why I'm not playing one. She steps inside, surveying my half-empty bookshelf with pursed lips. Your father mentioned graduation parties yesterday. I told him there's no point planning one if you're throwing away everything we've done for you. My hands go still on the spine of a poetry anthology. The words hit their target with precision, as her words always do. But something unexpected happens. My father's voice carries up the stairs. That's enough, Lena. He stands behind her, shoulders squared. She deserves the same support we give Ellie. Mother's head snaps toward him. This isn't about Ellie, isn't it? His voice remains steady, a tone I haven't heard him use with her in years. We spent $3,000 on Ellie's senior trip to Washington. We can afford a graduation party for Nina. Mother's cheeks flush. We'll discuss this later, she says, but when she turns to leave, the usual authority in her step wavers. After they're gone, I sit on my bed, stunned by the small crack in her control. Father has always chosen peace over confrontation. His standing up for me now feels both wonderful and terrifying, too late to change the past, but perhaps enough to make leaving bearable. I add a framed photo of us at the beach when I was 10 to the mementos box. In it, Father builds a sandcastle with me while Mother and Ellie pose perfectly for the camera nearby. I remember him whispering, "It doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful." I wrap the frame in an old t-shirt before placing it carefully among my treasures. With my flight to Vermont booked for the day after graduation, I wonder if I should make one last attempt to help my mother understand my choice. Would a heartfelt explanation bridge the gap between us, or would it just give her another chance to undermine my resolve? That night, as I prepare for bed, my phone buzzes with a text from Father. Took day off work for airport run. Don't tell your mother yet. A second message follows. Found boxes for winter clothes in the garage. leaving them by your door tonight. The knot in my chest loosens slightly. I've grown accustomed to fighting this battle alone, but these small acts of support feel like oxygen after years of holding my breath. My English teacher, Miss Reynolds, stops me after class the next day, pressing a folded paper into my hand. Vermont winters are brutal compared to California, she says. I made you a list of essentials: thermal underwear, snow boots, real winter coat, not those fashion things the stores sell here. I unfold the paper to find not just clothing recommendations, but dorm essentials, local Vermont resources, and a name with a phone number. My former student, she explains. She's in the creative writing department. Said she'd show you around campus your first week. Thank you, I whisper, overcome by this practical kindness while Mother continues her campaign of silence at home, refusing to discuss anything related to Vermont. When I return from school, something is different. My acceptance letter, the one Mother defaced with angry red circles, is pinned to the refrigerator next to Ellie's academic achievement certificates. I stare at it, trying to decode the message. Did Father put it there? Ellie? The phone rings. Mother answers in the kitchen, her voice stiffening. Yes, Aunt Carol, we are very proud. Both girls have worked hard this year. A pause. Yes, Vermont College. Creative writing. Another pause. Of course, Marcus told you. I retreat to my room before she catches me eavesdropping, but her words follow me. The careful neutrality in her voice, the public acknowledgement of my achievement, not acceptance, but recognition forced by others knowing. Father knocks on my door that evening, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Your Uncle Robert called. Then Aunt Carol. Your mother's sister Patricia. Cousin David. He counts them off on his fingers. Amazing how news travels. Did you tell them? He shrugs, not quite meeting my eyes. Might have mentioned your scholarship during Sunday phone calls. Proud father and all that. For the first time in months, I wonder if graduation might not be the lonely milestone I'd imagined. As relatives call to congratulate me, I watch Mother's composure fracture just enough to see the uncertainty beneath. She'd expected to control the narrative, ungrateful daughter abandons family, but Father has quietly rewritten it. Talented daughter earns opportunity. I place my final journal in the books box and seal it with packing tape. 3 boxes. One-way ticket. The calculated departure has begun. On graduation day, the smell of blueberry pancakes pulls me from sleep before my alarm. For a moment, I lie still, disoriented by this unexpected kindness wafting up the stairs. Through my bedroom window, dawn breaks over the backyard fence, casting long shadows across the garden where I've hidden so many drafts of my writing over the years. I find Mother in the kitchen, spatula in hand, her posture unnaturally relaxed. My favorite breakfast spreads across the counter: blueberry pancakes, crisp bacon, and fresh squeezed orange juice in the glass pitcher reserved for holidays. Good morning, she says, her voice pitched higher than normal. I thought you might want something special today. I slide onto a stool, wariness tightening my shoulders. Thank you. She sets a plate before me, then touches my arm lightly. The gesture feels foreign after months of cold silence. I've been thinking about everything, she says, pouring herself coffee. Maybe we can compromise. I cut into a pancake, saying nothing. The community college has excellent writing courses. You could start there for 2 years, then transfer to Vermont if you still want to write. She smiles, revealing teeth too white against her lipstick. That way you'd have time to be sure before making such a big commitment. The pancake tastes like dust in my mouth. I recognize the tactic, the sudden warmth, the reasonable tone, the illusion of compromise. I've set aside some money in your college fund, she continues. But of course, that's for an education we agree on. And think about holidays, coming home from Vermont would be so expensive. I push my plate away, appetite gone. Is that what this breakfast is about? One last attempt to change my mind? Nina, I'm trying to be reasonable. You're 17. You don't understand what you're giving up. I stand and walk to my backpack leaning against the wall. From its front pocket, I pull out a blue folder and place it on the counter between us. This is my financial plan, I say, opening it to reveal neatly organized papers. My scholarship covers half the tuition. I've secured a campus library job that includes a housing discount. The rest comes from loans I've already been approved for. I've calculated monthly expenses, including a small emergency fund. Mother's eyes narrow as she scans the budget, housing confirmation, and class schedule. Her fingers tighten around her coffee mug. I figured it out on my own, I tell her, my voice steadier than I feel. I had to. So you've made your choice. The softness vanishes from her face, despite everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me, Mother, besides make me feel like I don't belong in my own home? The kitchen falls silent except for the ticking of the wall clock, a sound that has marked countless tense family meals over the years. Later that evening, my suitcases stand by the front door like sentinels guarding my escape. The house feels charged with electricity, everyone moving carefully as though avoiding sparks. Ellie offers strained smiles when Mother isn't looking. Dad keeps finding excuses to pat my shoulder as he passes. In the living room, Mother sits rigidly on the sofa, flipping magazine pages without seeing them. I approach with a sealed envelope in my hand, my heart pounding so hard I'm certain everyone can hear it. I wrote this for you. I say, placing the letter on the coffee table. It explains everything I've never been able to say out loud, about my writing, about us. She looks at the envelope, then at me. With deliberate slowness, she picks up the letter and tears it in half without breaking the seal. The sound of ripping paper cuts through the room. You're choosing paper over people, she says, dropping the torn pieces onto the table. Stories over your family. The old Nina would have flinched, would have scrambled to pick up the fragments of her words with an apology already forming. But something has shifted inside me, a fundamental realignment of who matters most in this moment. I calmly gather the torn halves of my letter, tucking them into my pocket. No, I say, meeting her gaze directly. I'm choosing myself for the first time. Dad stands in the doorway, his face etched with lines of pain, but I notice he's positioned himself closer to me than to Mother, a small shift in the family geometry that speaks volumes. Nina? He starts, then falters. It's okay, Dad. I tell him, though we both know it isn't. As I turn to leave the room, Ellie slips something into my hand, a folded piece of notebook paper. I wait until I'm alone in the hallway to read it. Write your story. I'll be reading. That night, I hear whispers from the guest bedroom where Aunt Sharon is staying. Fragments of conversation drift under my door, ungrateful, and abandoning her family. The court of family opinion has already rendered its verdict. I wonder if Ellie will be able to resist Mother's influence once I'm gone, or if our fragile connection will become another casualty of my departure. Morning arrives with a pale sun barely clearing the horizon. Dad loads my suitcases into the car while I stand on the front porch, taking one last look at the house that never quite felt like it belonged to me. Movement catches my eye. Mother watching silently from her bedroom window upstairs, her figure half hidden behind the curtain. Our eyes meet briefly before she steps back into shadow. I climb into the passenger seat beside Dad, my future packed into 3 suitcases in the trunk, the torn letter still in my pocket. As we pull away from the curb, I don't look back. The road ahead may be uncertain, but for the first time, it's mine to choose. The Vermont dorm room lacks space but offers freedom. I arrange my few possessions with deliberate care, positioning 3 journals prominently on the wooden desk beneath the window. Autumn light filters through maple trees outside, casting warm patterns across my new beginning. Is that all you brought? My roommate Tessa leans against the doorframe, watching me unpack my final box. 3 boxes hold 17 years. I smooth my hand over the worn leather cover of my favorite journal, but I traveled light on purpose. For the first time in my life, no one questions where I place a book or how I arrange my clothes. The simple act of deciding which drawer holds my sweaters feels revolutionary. When I tape a blank sheet of paper above my desk, my canvas for future ideas, no one enters to peel it down. Tessa gestures toward my journals. You a writer or something? The question would have paralyzed me 3 months ago. Now, I straighten my shoulders and meet her curious gaze. Yes, I say simply. I'm a writer. The words emerge without apology or qualification, settling into the space between us like truth rather than wishful thinking. Tessa nods, accepting this declaration without the skepticism I'd grown accustomed to at home. With my part-time job at the library, I grew more confident and started writing new poems and stories. When the semester officially begins, Professor Winters begins our first writing workshop by asking each student why they write. The question circles the room, receiving varied answers about expression and ambition. When my turn arrives, I don't hesitate. I write because it's how I survived. I tell the circle of strangers who lean forward to hear my quiet voice. Words gave me a place to exist when my actual life couldn't accommodate who I was becoming. Professor Winters asks if I'd share something from my work. Last year, such a request would have sent me hiding behind mumbled excuses. Today, I opened my journal and read a passage about a girl standing at an airport gate, choosing herself despite the cost. My voice remains steady throughout. I don't rush or apologize when I finish. The silence that follows feels like respect rather than judgment. That's precisely why we're all here, Professor Winters says finally, to honor those stories that demand to be told. Later that week, I joined 4 classmates at the Inkwell, a coffee shop just off campus. Steam rises from ceramic mugs as conversation flows without the constant vigilance I maintained at home. No one here knows about my mother's ultimatum or my sister's conflicted loyalty. Rachel, a fellow freshman with bright red hair, raises her mug. To the stories that saved us, she declares, and the ones we still need to tell. We clink mugs in ceremony, and I realize I've found my tribe people who understand that words aren't make-believe but survival. The campus literary magazine arrives in my mailbox a month later, my poem listed in the table of contents. I trace my name in print, remembering all the hidden notebooks and flashlight writing sessions in our backyard shed. I pin the publication announcement to my corkboard alongside a calendar marked with my first official reading next month. Tonight, I sit at my desk writing to Ellie. The letter flows easily without fear of discovery or mockery. Outside my window, Vermont's autumn palette deepens into evening, so different from Bakersfield's dusty landscape. A package arrived this morning, a small cardboard box containing a flash drive and a note in my father's familiar handwriting. Opening the drive on my laptop reveals folders labeled by year, each containing scanned copies of stories I wrote throughout childhood, stories I thought were lost when our computer crashed years ago. Dad's note reads simply, "These were always real, so are you." As I sit in my dorm that first night, I wondered if leaving home meant I had failed my family or finally freed myself. Can walking away sometimes be the bravest form of love, not just for yourself, but for those you leave behind? What would you have done if someone said to you, "If you leave, don't come back"?